Maraga. Ni Maraga, raisi wa Kenya baba. Ni Maraga, raisi wa Kenya baba.
Sisi tumechoka na mambo ya William Ruto. Enough is enough. Tumefika mahali tunasema lazima tupiganie hii nchi yetu. Sisi tunakaa kama tumekuja kutoka nchi nyingine, sio Kenya.
Kinyume, tunakuwa maisha itakuwa rahisi, mafuta yanapanda asubuhi. Tafadhali. Kiwa na mambo ya matibabu na hana uwezo. Sio tafadhali bwana Maraga, utukumbuke na utuhusishe. Tuwe ndani kabisa kwa serikali yako.
Nataka mniamini na mali yenu. Mtakuwa na madawa hospitalini.
Fellow Kenyans, my name is David Maraga. I'm running for president in 2027. Our country is going the wrong way. Everywhere you go, there's a breakdown of law and order. There's a breakdown in the rule of law. There's a breakdown in our humanity as a nation. As the former Chief Justice, I'm calling upon the nation to adhere to the rule of law. My government is going to call the country back to order. Because when you don't uphold the constitution, you are headed for anarchy. I want to reset, restore, and rebuild this beautiful country based on the philosophy of Katiba, the call to return to our constitutional order. I need you to help me reset, rebuild, and restore Kenya. I have chosen to run a campaign funded by Kenyans. Why? Because if it is funded by Kenyans, it means the Kenyans want change, and they believe that I will be the one to bring that change. So I am appealing to you to make donations to our campaign. Please give us any amount you are comfortable with. You can give us even 10 shillings, 20, 30, 100. So please, if you want to donate, please simply go to www.davidmaraga.com. And those who want to pay by a pay bill, the pay bill number is 4164137. 4164137. The account number is the same. 4164137. Thank you very much. Please assist us to bring change in this country. Together we will build a nation that we want. Thank you very much.
We shall hold our dream. Ukatiba tiba, ndio tiba ya Kenya. Katiba.
All right. Hey guys, welcome back to our live session. This is yet another week of Diaspora discussions. For those who haven't met the team from last time, we do have myself, Joshua Buto, who will be moderating, and we do have Jared Washington and Professor Goki. If you guys would like to introduce yourself just before we go forward, feel free to take this moment and introduce yourself accordingly. Jared,
yeah, I'm Jared Onguso, leading the Maraga Diaspora team, where we have a credible team of good men and women who are ready to do everything to see we have the right leadership in Kenya. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Washington?
Hi, this is Washington Osiro. I am also a proud member of the Maraga 2027 movement. I am very eager to be part of the Reset, Restore, and Rebuild movement that seeks to take Kenya in a new direction. So I'm very excited to be on this live session. And I'm also very excited and honored to be part of the team. Thank you.
Thank you. Prof, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you for this opportunity to introduce myself. I'm Professor George Agoki from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, a professional licensed civil engineer in Texas. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you guys for making the time to create these discussions. I know, we all have busy lives, we have things going on, but I think it's, it's important for us to have this kind of discussions. And as we all mentioned, we're all part of the David Maraga team. And last time we focused on voter registration. But before we get to this week's topic, I just want to ask, because I think this falls right into what you're going to be talking about today. What is it that drew you to the David Maraga campaign? Is there something that uniquely put you there? Is there a reason? What's drawing you to be part of the change to bring awareness for our former CJ?
For me, a very easy choice, to be honest. And there is one, I wanted to do the right thing, which is we cannot say one thing and do the opposite. What Kenya needs now, it needs an incorruptible person, a person who can, what Kenyans cry every day is people who are not following the law, and the people you can trust with their word. When I look at the whole field of candidates, without being biased, I don't think that there is any candidate who can stand one-on-one with Chief Justice Maraga. If we want to change the country, if we want the country to go anywhere, then we have only one candidate who can say one thing and do the same. Tell me any candidate and tell me if they can stand, if they don't have corruption attached to them, whether allegedly or truly. Each candidate, I can tell you, there is a scandal behind it. You will not get anything on Maraga. But also, the Kenya problem we have today, as Maraga has put it, is the constitution which we gave ourselves in 2010, and there is nobody who wants to implement it. If we implement our constitution, we try to make the constitution to take care of the problems we have. So that's why I see that if you have economic crimes, land grabbing, killings, all that can be taken care of with the constitution if we can follow and implement what is supposed to be. And to me, when it came to that, there was a very easy choice. So I didn't have any difficulty to choose. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Yeah, so full disclosure, in 2022, I supported William Ruto. I supported him because he vowed, he promised to dismantle the dynasties and ensure that Kenya became a country that is governed by the Constitution, and not by legacy and not by who you know, but by the constitutions. I took that to heart because professionally, I am a quality systems and regulatory expert. I work in the medical device space. I ensure regulatory compliance with the different standards. Specifically, all those standards, whether it's the FDA, CDC, ISO, they they require leadership of all organizations to set the tone, to create the atmosphere where compliance is the way to run the business. I took that same mentality, I took that approach in deciding whether or not who between the candidates reflected that philosophy. And given my given the incumbent's track record, given CJ Maraga's track record, especially the 2017 decision to annul the elections, it was a no-brainer for me. Maraga has a track record. He is a constitutionalist, and he is not beholden to anybody. I think that the fact that his personal track record speaks for itself is made it a no-brainer for me. So I just found that he's the person who can best reflect not only my professional training, but also my personal beliefs that we have laws, they should be followed, and if you don't follow them, you should be held accountable. And that's regardless of who you are, who you know, who your family is. And that is what the former CJ represents for me. Somebody who is going to be faithful to the Constitution, somebody who is going to hold people accountable. He's going to surround himself with experts and let them do their job. He's going to hold them accountable if they succeed or if they fail. That is what I'm used to. That is what I expect. And that's why I support the former CJ.
Thank you for that. Prof.
Thank you. I've been around for a while, since independence, and I was a little older and matured to understand what we were getting ourselves into. When I examine all the leaders we have had, I could use the words, we as Kenyans should repent for the choices we have made in the past. By their fruits ye shall know them. And it's not hard to tell the difference. Just look at the fruits. And so for me, it's an easy choice. Of all the candidates who have fronted themselves, it's an easy choice to choose candidate David Maraga for what he stands for. It's not a hard choice. It's no brainer. And this is the message we need to share widely, all over, to all Kenyans of goodwill, that we need to reset our country. There are those who argue that if we have no faith in the past and those who have ruled over us, how do we expect to have someone, or those of us who do not believe in what has gone before? That is why we are saying, let's give ourselves a chance to reset and try a candidate whose fruits we know in terms of incorruption, rule of law, integrity, and someone trustworthy, someone who is not out to enrich himself. And that's why I'm drawn to this campaign.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It's very inspiring to hear why. It's representative to what others may be also sharing in terms of sentiments. as a moderator, I'll be the neutral party. I'll be Switzerland in this case. But just from right there, I wanted to dive right into what the David Maraga campaign pillars stands upon. So for those who haven't yet gone to the site, I will put it in the chat. Just give me one moment. And this is, let me see if I can share my screen. Give me one moment. All right. So let me know if you guys can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Oh, wait, I need to add it to stage. Okay, there we go. All right.
Okay, perfect.
So these are the current campaign pillars that Maraga stands upon. I know you guys have mentioned a variety of different reasons, but over the next couple of weeks, we'll be going through different pillars, different reasons why the Maraga campaign appeals to not just some, but for everyone and for the larger Kenya. And just to start off with, I believe this very first one should be a good place to begin, discussing education, youth, innovation, and technology, right? And the subset are basic, secondary, and tertiary education, and then also technology, technical training, innovation, and skill development. Now, I know the people here who've seen, who've seen the different education systems that we've had. We used to have the previous one, then we now have a new one. We moved from 844 quite recently, and that's something that I'd like us to discuss also. In terms of education, where do you think we stand by? Like, how do you think Kenya is faring in its own life course since we came from independence, and to where does it sit on the global space? That's one. And then two, what gap should be filled to improve that, if there needs to be improvement? So feel free to discuss, see what changes had in education, and where we are comparatively to other nations. I don't know if Washington answers that or Prof answers that.
This is, to be quite honest with you, so my expertise is in healthcare. That's what I'm researching, is healthcare equity. But I'll take a stab at the education pillar. And growing up in the 70s and 80s, I think we had a fairly decent educational system. I know we inherited a fairly robust, a fairly what's the word to describe? What we inherited from the British was fairly decent, and I know that in reading up on Lee Kuan Yew, who was the first prime minister of modern-day Singapore, his book From Third World to First World talks about the educational system that Singapore inherited from the British and how it formed a platform. It was one of the pillars that he used to develop the country into a first world country. It had a pipeline of human capital that were primed to take over from the British. I think that was the case in Kenya in the 70s. Schools like, I went to Nairobi School, and then I went to Maseno. I have friends who went to Lenana, who went to State House, who went to Kenya High. These were fairly decent schools. Somewhere along the way, we lost that. And I think the evolution of the country's educational progression kind of mirrors the evolution of the country's development and socio-political and socio-economic and cultural evolution, where a lot of the pillars, a lot of the structures, a lot of the foundations that were created by the British, for all their faults, I think they left a fairly decent educational system. Somehow those systems were cannibalized, were taken over by people who did not see them as national treasures to build upon and to use to develop the country, but as opportunities to self-enrich themselves. And I think you can see that over time, the quality of education has deteriorated, much like the quality of the country's leadership. Everything is for sale. Degrees, placements in some of the supposedly top-tiered schools, they're all for sale. And I think the proof is in the pudding. Despite having one of the continent's leading human capital reservoir, we still struggle to have a local educational system that allows us to be competitive. So that's my best stab at the education pillar, given the fact that it's not my area of expertise. I look at it. I frame my perspective on the fact that we always talk, Kenyans always talk about being the next Singapore. But look at what Singapore did with the foundation that it had from the British. Markedly different from what Kenyans did. Singapore has one of the best educational systems in the world right now, and that was built upon by Lee Kuan Yew and the subsequent leadership of the country. Kenya had the same foundation in the 60s and 70s, but we've messed it up. So that's my take on the educational pillar.
I'll pick up from where Washington has left. I have taught with professors from Singapore who went through the same system I went through in Kenya. That is the A levels. Now, we should recognize that Jomo Kenyatta was not a graduate. Moi was even worse. It's only Kibaki who had a bachelor's from Makerere University and a master's from London School of Economics, if my records serve me well. Uhuru Kenyatta, I am not sure how he graduated, because normally when you graduate from a university in US, you say what your alma mater is, what year you graduated, and what you graduated with. Fortunately, the current president who went through Nairobi has a PhD, and it was our hope that since he's a graduate and an alumnus of the University of Nairobi, he would know better. But where the rain started beating us is when Moi directed, and at that time I was a professor at the University of Nairobi, when he directed that we change our system from the former that had A levels to the 844. In our discussions at the university, I asked, we have not had an input as the leading university in East Africa, the University of Nairobi, we have not had an input into changing the system to 844. And some of the professors who were with us, who were timid, said, this is a directive from the president. But the president is only a T4. He cannot know better than we university professors. That is where the rain started to beat us. Because you go from Cape Town to Cairo, you'll find that Kenya is the only one that has tampered with the education system. I've been to Stellenbosch. Our students were easily accepted there because they had done A levels. And those of us who went through the University of Nairobi had teachers from all over. From New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, all over. UK, of course. And there is a time when the system of education in East Africa was such that Makerere University's medical school was among the top 10 in the world. So what happened to us is poor governance. Today, as we speak, if I were to summarize, we are graduating students without empowering them. You see, the purpose of a university is to lift the vision of society. But our graduates do not have a bright vision of where they want to head, simply because of the way we have set up things. And so there is so much that needs to be done in this pillar. As we speak right now, universities, public universities, have no resources. They are owed so much money. Some of us who had a privilege of coming back home to help a little are still owed our emoluments. So we are in a very difficult position. If we get a chance, and we are praying that CJ Maraga gets the presidency, then we can reorder things because he understands this issue of how the rain started beating us in the education system, so that we go back to what works, because it's through a good educational system that we can emulate countries such as Singapore. We can't emulate Singapore if our education system is in shambles as it is now.
Thank you so much. There's so many parts I'd like to dive into a bit deeper. So, as a representative of the young people, the two parts I want to pick up. I want to pick up something that Washington said. I want to pick up something that Prof said. And one of the things that we mentioned was about the system, that the education system that was left for us post-independence, right? After we got independence. And when it comes to that, my thinking is there's always this discussion that went online, whereby there is, the way we have been structured is that we're being taught all this content of what we need to know, rather than how to think and how to do things, less skill-based. Whereas people in Europe who don't have the resources that we do have, for example, the mining, the quarries and whatnot, they have classes that are structured to address things like mining, things that they don't have the resources or structure to exploit. Whereas us, who we do have those kind of structures and whatnot, we're being given things that are so irrelevant that we cannot use to apply into developing our nation as a whole, based on, with that pretext, based on the contents or the way the education is structured, right? What are certain things that we think are critical or necessary, or if you were to change, would be important to do so in the long run in order to steer the country in the right direction? Like, what are certain key things that if you're given the authority as Minister of Education, or to overhaul the educational part of things, how do you structure it to create a new impact for a better education system? This is open to whether it's Prof or Washington, or even Jared, if any of you. Yeah, it's just open.
I'll let Jared go.
Let's start first answering the Kenya. From my point of view, I do think we give credit where credit is due. In fact, Kenya's education system, depending on where you're compared to other African countries, is doing better, depending on where you look at it from. Where I think where we have an issue mostly is the outcome. When 2002, Kibaki brought in free primary education, what it did, it accomplished that we had, I think, almost 99% now going through primary school. But without congestion, without proper implementation or thought through, we ran into an issue where there were no classrooms, there were not enough teachers, and they were going just through. So we accomplished by raising literacy from the primary side, but the quality was somehow tampered with. So the outcome is where I think we went wrong, because we looked at the quantity rather than the quality. So yes, in terms of kids going to school, more especially on the basic education, we do well on that, but the outcome of what we are producing was the challenge, where was now becoming much less. But we tried to address that by moving into what is that? The one we call CPC. Politics, as normal as we do, we only do things just for the sake of it. We hurriedly tried to do that CPC, which has also fallen so terribly. Now, what are the challenges we have? Because if we don't know the challenges, then how do we expect somebody to address that education? First, we look from where Maraga stands. It will run everything through constitutionalism. In our constitution, education is a basic need. It's a need which the government needs to provide. Whether that one is done is a question which can be answered with the question marks. So when we say free primary education, are we really doing free primary education? Where in the last campaign, people were promising free secondary school. Do we really have free secondary school? So unless we look at removing politics from what is supposed to be run, then we will continue having challenges. What we expect, and all this is what we are expecting Maraga presidents to do. One is to give a true free education as a constitutional right. How do you do that? One, I believe Prof will tell us back then, moderator, you might not know this, but there is a time we used to be given exercise books in school, which was school equipment, something for our education, before Moi came with milk. So we can actually do a really free primary education up to the secondary school first. Let's leave the university first. Up to secondary school. Ask yourself how the government works today. The government gives money to a member of parliament in terms of what they call CDF, or now they call National or something. The government gives money to counties. The counties give money to MCAs. And the government, national government, also sends money to schools. Now look how it goes. The MP gets the money, distributes what they call parsley, which of the amount they take. The MCA takes some and give parcels to school. The governor does also the same. This money is being given from the government to be paid back to the government. Why did it leave the government in the first place? So if we scrap all of these things, the money everybody giving wherever, if they want to give their personal, they can do that. What we will look at the entire budget of education. Cut from those money going to the counties, cut the money going to CDF, put all of them together and send money directly to school. That's how we can give really very, very free education. That's one. Two, look how the money, for example, money sent to my home county of Nyamira. The money is sent there to 4 constituencies. I think we have 4, yeah. To a member of parliament. It is called the Constituency Development Fund. They added something national, but it is Constituency Development Fund. It was to develop the constituency. Before devolution, that's how they came, so that they can move money from the national to the locals. But the irony of it, which I do not understand, the irony of it, the money comes to my constituency, let's say Warabu constituency, and the member of parliament takes a couple of those millions and in forms of bursary funds, write the checks to Alliance, to these national schools. Basically, the money which was, how are you developing the constituency when you are taking that money back again to national schools, because majority will go to the nationals, which we might not have. If it was supposed to be development, why is the money, instead of giving the bursary, help to develop the schools within the constituency? Those who want to have free education, let them go to the free in your constituency so that the development can continue. When are we going to have good schools in our constituency if we use the same money to take it out? So money comes and then goes out. Those are some of the leakages which we are just told for the sake of it, that there is money coming, the same money which comes to the county government. And then you find that it has found its way out of the county. So it's not, that's why our counties are not moving. The constituency is not, we don't have good schools as we should have. If all that money, each MP was building a very good national school in his constituency, and then the kids are going there, then that's where the development will be, and we could have improved the education in that person. There is so much which have to be done in the education section. On the university, I don't want to say much on it because I have not done any research on it, but I remember that at one time some of the universities were closing down. As they claim that the model is working, hope that it is working, that now the universities are up and running, so they can be done better, but it's something which have to be done some research. But there are things which we can actually immediately correct them, like offering free education, which means free. You just go to school, not this other one just there saying even competition is a challenge to go to school. That's what I will say on my side.
I think there's a lot that has been said. I made a couple of notes. First off, there is this Kenyans have this tendency of comparing themselves, depending on what the discussion point is. On the one hand, we have one of the best educational system on the continent. We have the best medical facilities in the region. And then fast forward, we want to compare ourselves to Singapore. So I think that moving target or that abstract comparison just it doesn't do us any good, because we don't know what we are shooting for. If we are shooting for Singapore, then let's compare ourselves to Singapore. But if we are shooting for a regional ranking, then let's compare ourselves to South Sudan and Somalia and Rwanda and convince ourselves that we are better than them. But then that also begs the question, is that the kind of benchmark that we want to create for ourselves 60 years after independence? I don't think so. I think our benchmark should be Singapore, or South Korea, or the Four Tigers, because those were our peers back in the 60s and 70s. So that's one. That who are we comparing ourselves to as a nation? I think we should be comparing ourselves to the Four Tigers: Singapore, Taiwan, South Korea, and Hong Kong. But more appropriately, Singapore, because their building blocks mirror what Kenya had and still has. So that's one. The other thing is, education, really, the way I look at it is, it's a tool that teaches one how to think and analyze problems and make decisions. And somehow we have lost that. I don't see, and maybe I've been out of the country for a long time, or maybe I'm just jaded, but I don't see this next core of students being able to think, analyze, and say, hey, we have say Silicon Savannah. So let me focus on skill sets that will take advantage of the Silicon Savannah. We have a vibrant fintech environment. Let me focus on skill sets that will take advantage of the fintech ecosystem. So somehow there's a disconnect between what the country needs and what it trains the students for. So that's an observation that I make. I could be wrong, but that's just one observation from where I stand. There's a disconnect between what is being taught and what the country needs. Food security, we always talk about food insecurity. We always talk about climate change, the droughts, the flooding in Nairobi, the flooding in my home county of Kisumu. I'm 4 or 5 miles from the Nyando River. I grew up with that damn river flooding every goddamn year, and somehow 60 years later it's still flooding. Where are the hydrologists? Where are the environmental scientists, who are responsible for assessing, the problems and coming up with solutions? So that's the other point. Is there's a disconnect between what is being taught and what the country really needs, and then. the last thing, which kind of ties into the kind of leadership that we need to address the disconnect and the disconnect between what is taught and what is needed, and then the quality of the education, is leadership. Or a leader doesn't have to have all the answers. They just need to be able to ask the right questions, but importantly, surround themselves with competent people and then let them do their job, independent of micromanagement, independent of politics, independent of self-serving. And I think that is where Singapore kind of basically took off. Lee Kuan Yew put in place very competent technocrats and held them accountable, and 60 years later, Singapore is the standard. So and that's where the CJ has an advantage, is that he is the kind of leader who, and you saw that in the 2017 decision, he stood up to power. In other words, his North Star was the Constitution. This is what the Constitution says about the way the election results are supposed to be transmitted. I have a problem with that. I am going to nullify it. So I can see that is, I can see him taking the same approach with the people who he appoints to different positions, say education. This is what I need you to do. I'm going to hold you accountable. The proof is going to be in the pudding. And that's the difference between, Kenya and Singapore, is that the leadership set the vision, put in place competent people, let them do their job, and held them accountable.
Well, I like the discussion, but let's be very real. One, the MP for Kiharu, Ndindi Nyoro, has demonstrated that given CDF money, students in his constituency are paying, if my records serve me well, 500 shillings, which is nearly free education. And they're having meals in their schools. The infrastructure has been improved. There are tiles on the floors, and you should look at what kind of infrastructure they have, and you will admire it. CDF money works, provided you have a responsible MP. Ndindi Nyoro is a graduate of Kenyatta University with economics and has got 2 masters. He is headed to Harvard for some other course. And he has been able to juggle these things whilst he's serving his constituents. He's one of the best constituents we have in Kenya. So we have places where the CDF money is working and education is nearly free, or it is at the expense of the public, which is what was intended when Kibaki pushed for the so-called free education. There's nothing free in this world. The point is that the taxpayers' money is seen to work and to work for us. Another point I want to emphasize here is this. Uganda and Tanzania did not change their system to follow our corrupt 844. They stuck to the old A levels. And today, if you want to seek admission to, say, Dar es Salaam for medical school, you will be running an uphill task. I guess the same may probably also apply to Uganda. The other thing I want to mention here is this. The problem with our public university education is that we are having a multiplicity of public universities, and every constituency almost wants to have a university. Okay, we could have branches. We could have a system where we have key universities, starling universities, with constituency colleges. And another thing we need to mention here is this: not everyone is destined to be a graduate, a college graduate, because we are not all made equal. The other issue I want to point out is this: we have failed to link our education system to our local problems in Kenya or the region.
Yes.
You cannot have an education a program for a university that is supposed to lift the community's vision, and yet you are simply churning out graduates who are good at memorizing facts. That is not going to help you. I will give an example. I used to ask students if they had ever worked anywhere, even at home. And some of the students who were admitting to university would tell me that at home, their parents had employed domestic workers, one to wash the cars, another to clean the house, including the toilets, spread beds even for children. So when these students came to us and we asked them, who is going to spread your bed here? Your parents are not here, or you didn't come with servants here. Who is going to do that for you here in college? And besides, we have a work program. How are you going to manage that work program when you have had no experience? I also used to have students, and I asked them, okay, when you graduate and you have prepared your CV, what you cite there is your work experience, both hard skills and soft skills. What are you going to cite? What are you going to tell your prospective employer? This is what you are good at, even leadership. What have you done in your life? We have had such a bad system of education in a majority of our public schools, and some private schools have followed the same, because our system has been exam based. People are competing in terms of exams, not the skills they are getting, and being nourished in such a way that they can solve problems for society. So what happens is students will first go to school, and then suddenly when they have graduated, now they want work, and they are asked, what is your experience? They have no experience at all. They can't cite anything, even the ordinary. That is a very sad situation. And so we need an overhaul of our education system so that we equip our students and our graduates to solve our problems. Some of the problems that Washington has just cited about Nyan. There's a time we used to have rice growing in the Kano Plains and in those areas, and the Yala swamps and whatnot. You see, and what happened? You know, the Japanese came to assist, and many others came to assist, but look at what has happened. They did not lift our vision so that we are self-sufficient in our food production. In fact, the Western Kenya alone is sufficient to feed the entire country and region if we applied ourselves. But the education system has not been structured in such a way that we should be able to solve our problems from agriculture to what have you, energy production, a good farming. One time I was tasked to start university programs in some college, and what I did was to go around and interview people. I went to Sony. When I went to Sony, I found a manager from Australia, and I asked him, "What kind of graduates do you want? Are you going to hire?" And he told me he would like to have people who are qualified in agriculture and manufacturing. And so I was going to mount a manufacturing and agricultural program in that particular college. That is what because you've got to address the problems in your region. That is a sugar zone. And so that is what we were supposed to do. And construction was another one, and so on and so forth. So what we have failed to do, even when people have come from Scandinavia, have come from Germany, to come and help us to set up things that address our problems, and so we tailor our education to fit that mold. In terms of funding, we have sufficient resources to finance our education from elementary or even pre-primary to university and grad school. The problem is that the emphasis is in the wrong place. And the way we have allocated funds is wrong. You see, if you cannot, you tell me, when you pay MPs more than a professor, what are you telling students? You are telling them that what to pursue is to be an MP. To be an MP is more worthwhile than becoming a university professor. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Our university professors are not respected. They are not well remunerated. The other thing I was observing just the other day is you should see what the bank CEOs and financial institution CEOs are earning in Kenya. More than what doctors make. And yet our lives depend on those medical doctors. Our lives on the roads and everywhere else depend on engineers and others. And see what kind of remuneration they get, or architects. Houses are falling in Nairobi and everywhere. And you ask yourself, what went wrong? It is simply, if you pay people, if you underpay people, they will lack motivation to excel and do the best. So they will cut corners. And I'm sorry to say, if CJ Maraga takes the presidency, education will be the first one for us to overhaul so that we apply the adequate resources to where it matters. Some of the public universities should be designated research universities. Not all universities can be research universities. Not all universities should be churning out simply graduates on simply because someone wants a degree certificate. They should cut their niche so that they are experts in certain areas, particularly that apply to solving problems in the local areas. I will give one example, and then I will stop for now. Moi University in Eldoret sits on 3,000 acres of land. University of Baraton, where I was privileged to serve as Deputy Vice Chancellor, sits on 339 acres. We are dedicated 50 acres to a farm to produce food, vegetables, and had grade cattle, poultry, and so on and so forth. On the 50 acres dedicated to food production, we could produce more and sell to the community around. And Moi University came to find out how we were able to produce more than they could produce and utilize on 3,000 acres of land. So it really depends on whose blueprint you are applying. So our education system needs a thorough overhaul, like most other things do. And CJ, given a chance, I think we will have a good chance to reset our education system and address problems within our country and in the region for better and greater prosperity.
All right, thank you so much. That was well said. That was well said. Which actually brought me to a point. I think you guys have addressed what was going to be my next question, because we saw the devolution. We saw the transition from the regular government to the devolved one, which now has multiple layers of the government. And like you said, the message that the government is giving the people is that the government is where it should make money at. But we see across the world, the government tends to be the most underpaid individuals in the nation, because they try to promote other industries to be where they need to develop change. We've seen this with Japan, we've seen this with China, we've seen this with even the Singapore, whereby the government works to set up industries whereby people actually are motivated to be able to bring change to the nation. Now, with that said, I think there's always the concern of, like, yes, even if we fixed this this education system, how can we set up the opportunities to follow up? Like you mentioned, is it possible to utilize the devolved government to be able to create opportunities? For example, one example I always give is, in Kenya, if your house is on fire and you start calling 911, like, you're dead. You're dead before even anything happens. Or like if you're having a heart attack, there's no sort of emergency response. And I think that opportunity alone can tackle so much when it comes to unemployment, because all these years of 50 to 60 years of independence and education, yet we have 30 to 40% unemployment, if not more, whereby, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but personally, I always get people back from home calling me like, do you have any jobs for me? Can I do something? Is there any gig economy? And it's not like people are not educated. I think they're very well educated, but the issue is the opportunity for making money, whereby we move away from Serikali's idea, right? How can we be able to, what are certain industries, what are certain things that, and because we're going over an hour, let's just give it about 1 to 2 minutes to tackle, what do you think are certain industries that you think would be critical to be able to create opportunities, and how can the government structure it in a way whereby we stop from begging and just there's a clear path from university? Companies are forced or are enabled to be able to create a path for educated people to get jobs directly into the country without having to go out of the country, and where we see the brain drain. So I'll open this up. This is so over
Let
1
me
hour. That's
take a shot at that.
Sure.
First, when the Technical University of Kenya was set up as the Polytechnic, we used to have sandwich programs. Even the University of Nairobi, when we were going to school, some of our classmates were already employed with Kenya Power. So every holiday, they would be going back to the sponsor and working. There is no reason why we cannot have sandwich programs where students who are going to school, to university, are tied to some industry. Just like you see some medical schools, nursing, and so on and so forth. They are tied to the prospective employer, even though they may not be all employed by that same employer. But they work, they study. They work. In other words, they're applying what they're studying, the theory, to practice. And that can be done. Tying our education system to practice, to an employer, so that students finance their schooling and at the same time will automatically transition into employment without much hassle. So that is missing. That is missing. In other words, we are believers because we live in a competitive society. We are believers of first going to school, or pass with flying colors, then come look for employment. That is a wrong model. Let me first chip in that and then I'll come up with other comments.
Thank you.
It's a good question you asked. We go back, I think my friend Osilo said he was in UDA, he was in a wheelbarrow, hoping the wheelbarrow will take him somewhere. But I've been a long supporter for a long time for Baba. Because I also had the belief that Baba could have changed the country, more especially in 2007, he was allowed to rule the country. So there is in their manifesto, in Azimio manifesto, there is one thing which they had there, which I thought that maybe people could have picked it up. We are very dynamic in as the country, Kenya. So if we started on raw hanging fruits, is that why don't we create industries based on what we do, like the sugar belt? They can have their the sugar industries. In the rake, they would have the processing for fish and other marine stuff. Everywhere they have something. So everybody, just like here, we have, if you go to each state, they almost have something which they are known for.
Yeah.
That's one thing I think we could have adapted, even without the national government, it could have been an initiative from the governors that within your account, what do you think? If you are in Kitale, why don't you try to make sure that Kitale and the other 2-3 counties can fit the country, and while the other places can make everything else? That's one. Secondly, for a long time, we have produced graduates who the system was emphasizing them on the academic, on the qualification. Up to today, I believe so, that in fact, it is not you who is being interviewed, it's your papers. So that's why you see now education is not what you learn, but it's what you can have on the paper. And we have seen these people going as far as buying fake degrees because they believe that it is not what they can be able to do, it's what the paper says. think CPC was trying to address that, moving from the exam based to now producing people who can do something. If you seem that you're more into sciences, you go to sciences instead of putting all this away. So I don't fault the system today, yes, CPC. What I fault is the way it is implemented. We don't take time. We want everything to be now. I do not think that we will have another chance to overhaul another system because it takes a lot of time to honestly to overhaul a system, and then everything doesn't go right. So we can actually try to see how can we improve what we already have. If we do that, then we will have graduates coming out to specific things which they can do. As far as the youths, I was thinking, what can you do with employment? Of course, the government cannot employ everybody. The government's responsibility is to create an environment where investors can come in, and these private investors will hire these people. So it's to make a conducive environment, making sure that the electricity is cheap, make sure the road network is made very well so that people can reduce the expenses. Then it can be attractive for investors to come and invest. Give them incentives. This instead of affordable housing for government to do, provide those land for private people to come and do that. Then they can hire their own people. Provide free tax for some time. I've been part of companies where we have gone to countries where we are given a number of years almost to zero tax, but they know that the kind of employment we'll get, the investment we are putting, it will still cover that, because if you employ 1,000 people, those 1,000 people, the government is going to make money from them. Those are some of the things which can be done. But I still think that we are already getting out almost, I believe, over 1 million every year graduates coming out. And now, this is where we have to change the mentality, even from the school. Everybody is believing that the only thing you can do, or the level of success, how they measure the success, is that you finish your degree, then you get a job. It's not finishing and going to say what you have learned now, as you said in Paraton or was it Jomo Kenyatta, which was for agriculture. You go and do farming. No, our mentality already is we have to get a job. It surprises, I was talking to somebody, and it surprises me that a person will take 100,000, 300,000 to try to get a watchman job, which pays maybe 10,000. So you see the rate of return when you recover that money, it will take a long time. And you ask yourself, is because this person does not know that with the same money they want to bribe, they can actually be employers if they put that money somewhere. But it's because how we were brought up, and that's our mentality. We have been brainwashed that you have to do a job, whether it is just a watchman or anything, you are somewhere watching. And those are the challenges which we have to change in order to do that. But some of those people who have been there, the moderator now, you as the Gen Z, we tell you, there's a time people used to go to what we call youth service. I think the program still is very quite known in Nigeria. When you finish, for Nigeria, I think is when it's college, whichever one, but I know that in Kenya it used to be once you finish high school or Form 5 or before you join the university, you have to go to youth service. That was also something which we need to look as a stopgap. That when these people, remember, these people come from our education system now, You come from a university, but you have no experience in anything, or you have is theory. So which job are you going to be given anyway? So if we can put a stopgap for even a year, mandatory, that you finish the college, you're gonna be put now into something like youth service. From that youth service, we can actually ask people, hey, you can give, this is a teacher, through youth service, is by youth service, you're going to pay a half of the salary and the government will pay something else, or we're going to give you for training to people and they will give something small. So that by the time they start eating the market, they will have at least some experience. But you will have a stopgap. That is something which we will have to do if we want to check this unemployment. Then, as I said, one, get out a stopgap of that or the youth service. Also, try now to change the mindset that you can do other jobs rather than being hired, and also making a conducive environment for investors to come and get jobs there. That one is how we can help the unemployment. Sending them to these other countries, I don't think that is a solution which is a long term. It's just something which you cannot get jobs you can every year. We have to think today how many people are unemployed, and not today. A few months, people are graduating, so you keep getting. So you have to have. That's why I'm thinking that they need to think seriously on a stopgap. What they are dealing with, the ones we have, you get a reprieve of 1 year. Even they will be paid minimum, but there is a stopgap. There is so much work you can do, infrastructure and everything. Put these people like teachers. You hear at schools they don't have teachers, but we are graduating people. Put them youth service, go to teaching if that was your course. Engineering, we will look somewhere where you will do construction. That's how we can, so that when they hit the market, they're ready made to do something. That's what I will say. One of the things we can do to arrest this youth unemployment.
I know we are 20 minutes past 10 o'clock, but so I'll make it quick. Jared, you touched on some of the things I was going to bring up. My home state of California, they have the breadbasket of America. So what and how do they achieve that? How do they maintain that? Their universities, UC Davis in particular, has one of the best vet schools in the country. Their agricultural program is top-notch. Napa, Sonoma, this is California's wine country. Mm-hmm. Sonoma State University has one of the best veterinary programs in the world. They train people to basically study the study the wine industry, study the problems that it has, look for ways to optimize yield, and the results speak for themselves. My alma mater, UC San Diego, it's right near the ocean. It's got one of the best oceanography programs in the world, Scripps Institute of Oceanography, top notch. It's got an excellent biology and biotech program. So what does that mean? It means that Sorrento Valley, which is the equivalent of Silicon Valley in medical device manufacturing, comes out of that program. A lot of companies have been started by students out of UCSD in the biotech space. Same thing with Silicon Valley, Stanford, UC Berkeley, San Jose State. All these are feeder schools to Silicon Valley's tech ecosystem, but also the medical device ecosystem. So what does that mean, how does that translate, how is that relevant to Kenya? I was making notes as we were talking about how can we focus our educational system to solve the local problems. Kisumu is right next to Lake Victoria. We always experience flooding. Once upon a time, we had a rice and cotton industry and sugar industry.
Mhm.
Well, why don't we have those? And maybe they do. I don't know, but I haven't seen it. We don't have programs that churn out academic specialists in those fields: hydrologists, soil engineers, aquaculture, rice, sugar, cotton experts, the blue industry. We've got the resources, we just don't have the expertise to harness them and make them work for us. And the models are out there for the country to take advantage of. What it's lacking is the leadership to kind of get people together and see and define the problem, and then let them go at it in terms of solving it. Without that, then we are piecemealing. We're just shotgunning our approach to the problems that we have in the country. And 60 years later, we are still talking about going to Singapore. So I think it's pretty straightforward what needs to happen. We just we need the political will. We need the political leadership to make it happen.
Then I don't know if it's my connection or. Oh, okay. So you had cut off a bit. Was that good? Was that it?
Yeah, no, that was it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
All right, perfect. Yeah. So I'll just close off because I know we've gone over a bit over time, but I want to appreciate everyone for their contributions. Before we go there, I think it'll be good to revisit this and dive a bit deep on certain aspects, because I know there were 2 points to it. There's the technology and whatnot. We'll definitely revisit this at another time, but you guys definitely do bring up a good point. And one of the key things that we've even seen with the universities out here in America, even UTF, for example, is they always partner with companies, right? And I know you guys have mentioned that. For example, Lockheed Martin with UT Arlington, they hire from there like crazy, and giving them those stipulations to allow a very direct path towards employment. I think having those steps ready, it's easy for us to now start collecting tax instead of like taxing the unemployed, and so by creating opportunities, you get more tax by higher paying people, and that's how we slowly build a community, and opportunities come along the more we do that. So we hope to see more of this in our next, hopefully our next town hall with CJ. We'd like to get his insight on this particular industry. But if there's anything, this is now to all our viewers and all those watching the live, we'd like to encourage you, interact with us. Is there anything you'd like to see change, or how would you like for the educational industry, the youth innovation and technology space to improve and also to impact Kenya? If you have ideas, we'd love to hear them. Put them in the comments. For those who watch after, we definitely review them and talk about them during our next live. If you'd like to get more of your opinions, please reach out to us, and we'll definitely try to include you in the next conversations. And yeah, this is not just for Maraga. This is sparking debate to see how we can also change. As much as we want the government to make changes, we can also see how we can step in to make these changes to have a longer impact. So with that said, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I want to thank you guys for participating. We'll look forward to the next live, where we'll discuss some of the other pillars and other and other current affairs. I know we didn't dive too much into the current affairs, but I think the discussion today was really productive. And in whatever way you're able to, please do make the change where you are. I don't know if you guys have any 30 seconds advice that you want to tell the people right now, or
I can tell our viewers, thanks for joining and watching us. You can follow us by going into the David Maraga campaign. Follow us on Facebook, on YouTube, and TikTok, so that you can get the updates. Currently, Maraga is on the caravan which is going through each county. We are almost in count number 28 or 29. For us, we have a channel. For those who are in North America, there's a WhatsApp group, and we have also a channel. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that. We do have our link for the WhatsApp channel. We have a WhatsApp channel and a community. So if you'd like to, if you'd like to join the conversation, stay tuned about the caravan information. Feel free to follow. We'll post those links, and if you'd like to, if you want to reach out directly, feel free to just message us, and we'll get you into those conversations. So, yeah, we look forward to having you on board. And if you'd like to contribute, to donate, so we do have the donation link right there, donations.davidmaraga.com. Feel free to contribute, and yeah, look forward to seeing you guys next time. All right, thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Chukua kura, chukua kura, chukua.
Maraga ameleta kipande, mnachukua kipande bure kwa sasa. Hakikisheni mumeenda pale mkapata kipande ya bure.
Yangu ni moja tu, mwambie vijana, akina mama wazee wachukue kura, kwa sababu hii kura ndio silaha yetu. Na hii silaha ndio tunafanya nini? Ya kuua shetani anaitwa ufisadi, na kuua shetani anaitwa ukosefu wa ajira kwa vijana.
Ujiandikishe kama wapiga kura. Kwa sababu gani? Mwaka huu ujao 2027 kura yetu itakuwa ya maana sana sana. Hatutaki mtu hata mmoja akose kupiga kura mwaka ujao.
Chukua kura, kama huna kura.
Haki sawa, tunalijenga taifa kuwa bora.
Ni Maraga, raisi wa Kenya baba. Ni Maraga, raisi wa Kenya baba. Chamani United Green Movement Party.
Maraga amekuja hapo, mimi nafurahia kwa watu kama hizo wenye hatuna shughuli ya kusaidika nini, yeye anatusaidia, yeye ndo anatusaidia, si ndio? Tunafurahia sana, amekuja kama tunafurahia.
Jambo ambalo tunaleta hapa ni kuwahimisha ya kwamba kila mmoja awe na kura. Kura ya mwaka ujao ni kura ya maana sana. Tunataka kumaliza hii ufisadi. Tunataka kufanya haki Kenya.